lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we're going to be reviewing We Have a Ghost, which was released February 24th, 2023, exclusively on Netflix. But before we get into the review, Rowan, some very simple questions. I just want to know if you're a fan of Christopher Landon's previous films, and based off of that answer, were you looking forward to We Have a Ghost?
So I've only seen a couple that he's done. I've seen Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, which I am a pretty big fan of. I thought they were pretty effective for what they were, and, you know, I don't want to say cute. They weren't, like, cute, but they were, like, pretty family-friendly and just funny kind of little horrors.
I always love hearing what you consider family-friendly. I wouldn't call them family-friendly, but yeah, like cute or fun horror movies for sure.
Happy Death Day is like a slasher, but it's a pretty, like, tame slasher.
Yeah, it's still a slasher, though. I mean, you know, I understand we're from a different generation where we watched slashers when we were growing up, but I don't know if that's the norm or, you know, kids' movies, but, you know, go on.
It's all right. Good kids watch these. And I think that's really all I've seen from him. The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I've only seen, I think, like 10 or 20 minutes. I fell asleep. I do need to revisit that, though. And then Freaky, I never saw, which I feel is like a mark on me, because I feel like everyone kind of loves that movie now.
Yeah, it has a bit of a cult following for sure.
Yeah, and I bought it when it came out. I think because at the time when it came out, we were talking about doing a show on it. And everyone was interested in it, and then we just never did, and I just never watched it. As for this, I saw the trailer when it came out. I don't know when that was. And I'll be honest, I do not think I was aware it was him that directed it till we kind of had tap this to do this episode on it. So I can't say I was like overly excited. It's a Netflix production, and I have mixed feelings on things Netflix puts out. What about you, Colton? Are you a fan of Christopher Landon, and were you looking forward to this?
A fan of Christopher Landon would be a little bit of a strong word, I think. I thought the original Happy Death Day was pretty good. I thought its sequel was pretty mediocre, and Freaky was a little bit better than Happy Death Day to You, but, you know, kind of like okay, I kind of like shrugged. Strangely enough, after glancing at his filmography, the movie that I have the fondest memories of is The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. So I saw that in theaters, but it's been nearly a decade since I've seen it, so who knows if the movie's actually any good. Like, the jury's kind of out on that one. So with that in mind, honestly, I wasn't really looking forward to this. I had no clue, like you said, that it was by Christopher Landon, and it's more so just on our radar because obviously when it comes to the show, I'm always Googling, you know, upcoming horror movies to keep an eye out or to look out for. And this had a little bit of hype, I think more so just around David Harbour being in it, you know, obviously people loving him from Stranger Things and whatnot. So yeah, it was easily accessible via Netflix, and I figured, why not give it a go? We pretty much had it out on the air last episode, like, should we review that or not? So yeah, here we are, we're reviewing it. And before we tell you if it was worth giving it a go, let's throw it on over to the trailer.
We're all here trying to get a fresh start.
Nothing like bad happened here. Right?
You moved into the house of death? Everyone says it's haunted.
No, wait, don't go!
Okay. No, I'm serious, Kevin. Caught him on camera. Oh, we gotta show Mom. No.
What you just heard is from We Have a Ghost, written and directed by Christopher Landon, and the story is as follows. After capturing video evidence that their house is haunted, the Presley family becomes an overnight social media sensation. But this newfound fame soon finds them in the sights of the Paranormal Investigations Unit of the CIA. Now, here on Now Slaying, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth spoiler-filled discussion. So, Rowan, What are your spoiler-free thoughts on We Have a Ghost?
I was trying to think, like, who is this aimed at? And I guess the best, you kind of said it in the intro. It's kind of aimed at, I guess, Stranger Things and David Harbour fans. Maybe, I guess, teens, I guess. I'm not really sure. I need to, like, I don't know, like, interview teenagers or something. I'm very interested in this, like, wave of kind of horror movies using teens that talk this way and act this way. And I'm like, is this what teenagers really are? I'm thinking like pretty close to the beginning of this movie. The character Joy just like makes a Ted Cruz joke. And I was like, are 16 years old just like making jokes about a Republican senator no one really gives a shit about anymore?
A very select few teens, I think, would make that sort of joke. And I don't know, maybe Joy is one of those. I don't really get, like, that sort of vibe from her, I guess, through the rest of the movie. I wouldn't say it's the norm.
Yeah.
But I would say probably teenagers are maybe a little bit more politically involved than we were just through the basis of social media. It's kind of hard to avoid that. But yeah, it is a little bit strange. I agree.
To me, this is definitely aimed at, like, I don't know, people that want ghosts in their movies but don't like horror movies.
If you're a big fan of Casper, this one's for you.
Yeah, like this is your movie. 'Cause I mean, it's just to get it off my chest. It's 2 hours long, and this movie barely sufficed a story to be like an hour and 10 minutes long, let alone...
I have to cut in here just because when I turned this on, Rowan messaged me just, to completely take down the veil. He messaged me like, let's record it around 8:30 tonight. It is now 10:30 because I was like, this movie's like, what, 90 minutes flat? Rowan's a half hour behind me. I figured it'd all work out fine. I start this thing, and like a minute or two into the movie, I click the play button just to check the time, and I'm like, holy shit, this thing's 2 hours and 3 minutes long. I messaged Rowan. I was like, oh my God, dude, what have I got us into?
I'm just going to be upfront. You're probably going to hear me bitch most of this episode, but I mean, I will give it to this film. Like, if anything, Christopher Landon has kind of shown he's a pretty competent director. Like, these movies look professional. I don't know if that's a compliment. Like, this looks fine. It's directed pretty much, I think, as well as any Netflix movie is.
Okay, I'm glad you qualified that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it's like really a secret, but I think as this Netflix experiment has gone on, we've kind of learned that this is where directors go to spend a lot of money and I feel like do as little work as possible. It's just kind of cash that check, bring something mediocre to a streaming service that probably most of these people don't overly respect because it's, attempting to ruin their business in the movie industry.
Well, to a degree as well, like, as an aspiring filmmaker myself, you don't really grow up hoping that you're going to make a movie that's going to go direct to streaming. It'd be like in our age, when we were growing up, basically being like, oh man, I really hope I can make a straight to VHS movie someday, or I really hope I can make something that's in the bargain bin at Walmart. Like, obviously Netflix has put out quality productions and whatnot, but it is very much like you said, it's most of the time it's for filmmakers that already have made a couple of competent movies. They take a big paycheck, usually a bigger budget. And strangely enough, I find a lot of times they'll take a budget that's 2, 3, 10 times more than their previous movie, and it doesn't really show for whatever reason.
Well, I looked at the budget for this.
Okay, all right, tell me.
And this was $75 million.
Oh my God, dude.
I just want that to soak into everyone's pores that is listening to this episode and watched it. Yeah, I was like, what was this money spent on?
Where does that go to? Yeah, like Anthony Mackie and David Harbour get a big fat check? I have no clue. Oh, what?
I guess they had to pay Anthony to take a break from some Marvel movies. But,
yeah.
I mean, like, the FX in this, like, are pretty much non-existent. Like, they're there as the ghost, but that's it. There's nothing special going on.
Like, they're bad. Like, I made a note that David Harbour's ghost is essentially an effect that can be achieved in After Effects in an afternoon in a lot of cases. Like, it's literally like put a yellow filter over this, adjust the opacity, and it's like you put a gradient on it, so it's kind of harsher near his feet and then lighter as it gets up to like his chest and where he actually has to perform, right? It's just not good. Like, obviously there are points when he's like phasing through geometry and stuff in the world and coming in through walls and stuff, but it's not a great effect.
No, and like I said, I think, to me, going in this thinking, we knew it was going to be a comedy. I expected it to be a horror comedy, but really it's treated more like a kind of a murder mystery. It actually, it's funny because you brought up Casper. It didn't give me Casper vibes. It kind of gave me the Frighteners vibes, minus the Frighteners is actually a pretty good film. Because the Frighteners also had like that murder mystery kind of cat and mouse chase going on, but this movie's just kind of inconsistent with what it wants to do. Like I said, there's 3 or 4 different kind of plots going on here that I don't think any of them really amount to anything or give a satisfying conclusion. And I'm going to wrap up my like I said, I haven't talked much about the movie. There's not much to talk about. But I will just say that I don't recommend this to teenagers, which Netflix is aiming for because it's categorized under teen films.
Okay.
As someone, now I just sound like a crusty old man, but as someone that has been to the movies a couple times in the last couple years with teenagers in them, I'm not sure any teenager is sitting through 2 hours of this. So, yeah, I'm not really sure who this is for. It doesn't have like a fresh teen vibe to it. It kind of feels written by old people that are like, hey, this is how the kids talk these days, and this is how the kid walks these days. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a hard not recommend.
Hard not recommend.
Yeah, the hardest of hard. What about you?
Yeah, well, I kind of want to get into the comedy. Like, did you find the movie funny at all? Like,
No.
Obviously, I assume we were both watching it by ourselves, which obviously it's a harder thing to make a movie laugh by yourself. But this movie has like the quality jokes where it's like, oh, I can't give up my cool phone number because it's 222 poop. And it's like, who does that, like, other than us ironically laughing at how bad that is right now, how does that make you laugh? Or like she's wearing a shirt that says BD Energy on it. I'm like, is that just supposed to be Big Dick Energy? And like it's June and she's a female character. Like, is that supposed to be funny? Or like I honestly don't know like what the jokes are in a lot of this movie. The one part of the movie I thought that was like kind of funny or kind of executed well was the little TikTok montage, which I don't know. It felt still like through like a boomer lens to a degree, like someone who's being taught like what the kids are doing on TikTok. And I mean, I'm one of those people as well. I'm not a boomer, but I mean, I don't have TikTok. I get what people are doing on TikTok through seeing other people cover it. But it felt fairly accurate to me with like having the reaction videos and memes and then turning into like thirst traps and a challenge and all that stuff. Like, it seemed like a natural progression of something going viral. I thought that was like kind of okay. I don't know. It didn't, once again, it didn't make me laugh, but it was like, oh, okay, it has something here. I also think the opening shot is pretty interesting.
I did like that.
And I mean, this is like, I'm just going to sound overly negative, but like the opening shot is the best shot in the movie. And I understand that makes it sound like, what's your favorite part of the movie? It's the credits because it's over, which I have done before, but I'm genuine in terms of like, I do think the opening shot is really good. God, what else positive can I say about this movie? I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else positive to say about it.
Listen, I'll say this for a non-spoiler positive is I like all the music in it. Should all of this music be in this movie? No. It doesn't fit the movie whatsoever. But I mean, I do like the music they played.
Like, sure, yeah, if you're just listening to like a playlist and it's random, but like not at all in this movie. In terms of negatives, I did enjoy this movie to a degree. I think the movie gets progressively worse as soon as the narrative kind of shifts away from the house. Speaking vaguely, not to spoil anything, and it kind of opens itself up to maybe like the larger world or the B plot and the C plot. Stripped down, kind of like a family trying to profit off of capturing their ghost in their house, you know, it's kind of okay. Like, I don't mind that. I do think movies like Nope have kind of had that conceit within the last year and have obviously done it a lot better. But I didn't hate that aspect of it. But, you know, obviously half of this movie or more is, you know, outside of the parameters that I just mentioned of like within the house. So I think the ghost is awful. We've already mentioned it's a bad effect, but they also made him like piss colored. And I understand the bowling shirt that he's wearing is yellow, but like, man, who would think like a ghost's color would be like just like urine color, like literally like piss. Like, it's always so unappealing whenever he kind of like comes into the picture, or like kind of, you know, manifests in front of people. Like, it never looks good. The score. Man, the score is awful in this thing. Like, you mentioned the needle drops in terms of licensed music, but the score is just relentless. It's constantly in your ears trying to make you feel sad and scared and, I don't know, I guess laugh like it's supposed to be upbeat and quirky. It's just not good. And honestly, I think a lot of the performances here are pretty bad as well. Like, David Harbour is playing a role where he literally doesn't speak a word. And he does like some stuff like, oh, look sad. Oh, look happy. Look scary. And I mean, there's one kind of like horror-esque scene that maybe we'll briefly touch on in the spoiler discussion that I thought was kind of good as well. But everyone in this is not very good. Specifically, I think the mother is terrible. And Tig Notaro is absolutely like almost unwatchable. Like, I hated it whenever she was on screen in this. I thought she was awful. So
I was prepared for a Tig Notaro rant of, are they even any good in anything? So,
well, I kind of feel like that. And I mean, I don't know her from stand-up or anything. I know her from stepping in for Chris D'Elia in Army of the Dead, which, you know, like, good on her for replacing the fucking sex offender in the movie. But I mean, I honestly haven't seen her in anything. I've only seen her in 2 or 3 things, and I don't enjoy her performances in anything. So once again, this is another one that didn't win me over. I thought she was awful whenever I seen her. And for the praising the movie for like the TikTok aspect, they also do things like, I don't know, kiss my ass, PewDiePie. And it's like, all right, like, don't get me wrong, like, PewDiePie was relevant certainly at a certain age of YouTube, but is he still relevant in like 2023? Like, I don't know, maybe to a certain age demographic. Certainly not in like people I know that used to watch him. They're certainly not watching him anymore. So I don't know, it felt out of touch. It feels clunky. It's not good. I got very boring about halfway through for whatever reason. They should have kept this a tight 90 minutes, breezy, purely about a family trying to profit off of a ghost and maybe making some sort of agreement with the ghost to be a social media star. They should have did something really meta and silly with it, but yeah, it just, God, it suffers from scope creep so much and the narrative gets completely unwieldy. Also, one little note that I just have to mention, they mentioned that they're broke multiple times in this movie, and the kids are walking around with Apple AirPods Pros in their ear, which are $400 a pop. They got iPhone Pros in their hands to capture everything. They're rolling it with MacBooks and shit all the time.
I mean, the older son drives like a sports car.
Yeah, it's like, you guys aren't broke. Like, or at least not what my perception of broke is. Maybe they got your credit cards maxed out or something, but you're not broke. Like, you know. Anyways, maybe that's just speaking as someone who was pretty broke growing up as a kid. You're not broke if you got your Apple AirPod Pros in. Anyways, I'm not recommending this either. I don't know if it's like a harsh do not recommend, but I don't recommend it. And I don't think it functions well for the audience either. It's too long and it's too boring in the middle part to kind of, I think, keep any teenagers entertained as well. So yeah, it's a no recommendation for me, and it seems like a pretty harsh no recommendation from you. So I guess it's just time to cut to the spoiler discussion for We Have a Ghost. We are now in the spoiler discussion for We Have a Ghost, so if you have not seen We Have a Ghost, it's time to tune out and come back once you've seen the movie, or keep listening if you simply don't care. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to spoil in this thing anyways. Maybe just take our gloves off and speak a little bit more frank about it. Rowan, what do you want to start with? What do you want to get off your chest?
Well, so, I mean, I really didn't like I said, the whole cat and mouse story that we get with Tig Notaro and I guess, like, the FBI or the government. And
is this movie a better movie if Tig Notaro was Junebug and she was, like, obsessed with ghosts to try and track down her dead father? I kind of think so, if that was the movie, but it's not.
I think the movie's better if she's just not in it. And,
100%.
yeah.
But if she has to be in it, I mean, why make her a completely tertiary character that has no relation to anything? She's just literally a CIA agent. Like,
yeah,
who
well,
cares?
but not really. She just all of a sudden is like, she's writing.
Oh, yeah, she's like books. Yeah,
she's writing books, and
it's her section of that paranormal aspect of the CIA has been defunded, right? So it's like she's kind of gets rolled up when it's proven that ghosts may be real.
But then
anyways,
all of a sudden they reinstate her, and then it's just like, okay, you're a CIA agent now.
Yeah.
But it was just, to me, there was no real like menace to her. Like, she's menacing for like a little bit, like 2 scenes she's in, and then she just all of a sudden is helping the ghost again, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is real villainous. And it wasn't.
You missed it. David Harbour froze the tear on her cheek, Rowan. Come on, that was a nice tender moment that showed he's not a monster.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, there's probably a lot I missed, because I don't even know how you made it halfway through and said it was good, because within 20 minutes, I kept pausing Netflix to see the timer of how much longer this was. And I did that at least like 15 times. I was just like, when is this over? And then I'm like, oh my God, I've only made it 5 more minutes into this movie.
Yeah, honestly, it was the car chase is when I started getting bored. So that's probably like a little over halfway, I would say, right? Like,
yeah.
That car chase just goes on for about 10 minutes. And obviously there's some fun stuff like him phasing out of the car and landing in the police car behind him and punching the officer and stuff like that. Like that's fun, but dude, that car chase goes on for like 5 or 6 minutes.
Well, and he just does the same shit over and over again.
It's just so dragged out. Yeah.
And it was like there were some aspects, once we hit the road that I did like. Like, I actually did like the relationship building between the 2 leads. And, they're kind of like this young love. But I was like, this could be jammed into a 90-minute movie. And you could have, like, these cute things where David Harbour is, turning on music and, like, kind of setting the mood to get this guy to make a move on this girl. And I'm like, to me, this would be a way funner movie, and if it was just way more lighthearted, and it was a more, like you said, a Casper movie. And it's just, to me, I would have been fine with that. I would have been like, all right, like, the only thing horror about this is there's a ghost, but it's more just like a comedy, and there's like a little bit of romance, a little more family friendly. But it's just, this movie was so confused at what it wanted to do. And it was just, it was like a teenager with ADHD. It was just like, it would go down one storyline, then like, nope, let's go to another. Nope, let's go to another. And then my other thing is the family. The family sucked, man. Like, I was like,
so bad.
I was like, they're all unlikable. I mean, as someone that I absolutely love Anthony Mackie, like in most things I see him in, like I think he's a great actor, but I was like, I've never disliked a character more.
He's really bad in this, and he's just like an awful father as well in this movie. Like, I understand the movie tries to win us back in our perception of him by making him like tackle the guy out the window by the end, but it's like, dude, you just suck. Like, I wish you weren't even there to kind of have that resolution in the end, or that, get the upper hand on the villain, right? It's just, I don't care for him at all in this.
Yeah, well, and I didn't get the family dynamics, like the brother, and I get like, brothers just tormenting each other and doing stupid things like making you walk to school while they drive, like that's fine. But I was just like, the father, the mother, the brother, like they're just overly cruel to the main character for no reason.
And this is kind of where, like, I had a misread on the movie. I thought the main character, Kevin, was very obviously coded as a gay character for a lot of it.
So did I.
So where they had, like, the older brother was, like, hyper masculine, constantly talking about women and wanting to get laid and stuff. I kind of figured it was just like okay, Anthony Mackie and the older brother are kind of on the same wavelength, where, like, that is what they believe is like masculine, that's like what they believe to be the normal male or the healthy thing. So I was kind of thinking that like maybe he was a little bit of an outcast, and it was just, I'm not saying like if you're like a more feminine character, you have both ears pierced, or if you dress nice, or you have a more high-pitched voice, all of which this character has, that you have to be gay. It just seems like he was coded as such in the movie, that like when they were setting up that Joy and Kevin romance stuff, I honestly thought it was going to be like a, hey, I have something to tell you, actually, like I don't like you in that way type of scene. Like, I honestly thought it was going to be like that. So when I saw them kind of like being more of like assholes and stuff to him throughout the movie, I kind of thought it was just like par for the course, as having like a slightly like bigoted family or something, which is kind of fucked up because that's not the text of the movie at all. But that was like the read I got. Like that's how kind of weird his own family treats him in this movie.
Yeah, there was just something off about it. And, I don't know what irked me about it, but it was also like they have the conversation, like the Jimi Hendrix conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just a bizarre conversation that definitely a white person wrote. And I was just like, I'm not really sure why we're just continuing on this conversation about like Jimi Hendrix being good, but like not that good, and like crediting it to all these other like older guys. And it was just weird. I was like, there's something like off about this that I know, they think is witty, but I'm like, it's just cruel. And it's not even cruel in text, in the context of the film. It's like cruel that you're making your entire black cast like just kind of shit on Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Which, like, I'm not even someone who's ever been really interested in playing guitar, or like it's not even my type of music, like Jimi Hendrix. But it's like, dude, like he's obviously one of the best guitar players of all time, right? Like, or at least I think most people would consider him in the conversation, obviously, right? So it's just, it felt very strange as well to me as well.
Well, and it was just weird because I was like, okay, like, I didn't even look, like, I'm not sure if Christopher Landon wrote this also. I'm sure he probably had a hand in it.
No, he wrote this.
Okay.
Yeah, it is based off of a short story, but like he wrote the screenplay, yeah.
And to me, I was like, okay, maybe he's a music guy. This is going to be like music nerdy. But then to get back to the needle drops, I'm like, these are pretty basic ass needle drops. Like you're not dropping anything that's like, look at my extensive knowledge of music. You're like, I'm making a horror movie or comedy horror, and I'm playing The Doors' People Are Strange, the most overused song in horror movies of all time, pretty much. And I was just like, there's this weird pretension in the writing that I was just like, this is just bizarre. And like I said, I mean, my other issue also was just, I kept looking at my phone. I just wasn't interested. Jennifer Coolidge in this, I was like, what? Like, obviously you just got her to come in like for a day and do
she was awful, dude, in this. I hated it.
Yeah,
like,
she
the
was
Long
terrible.
Island medium.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the scene she is in is the one, like, probably vaguely horror scene of the movie, like, where they kind of do the whole Conjuring thing to kind of, like, lean into, like, hey, this is a haunted house, and they go through, and they basically show, like, look, if we wanted to make a horror movie that, traditional modern-day horror movie, we could. We're choosing not to make that. And essentially it involves David Harbour's character having like the Indiana Jones melting skull gag, which it was pretty fun. I did enjoy seeing that for a moment, and scaring her character, but it's a very, I don't know, it's an okay scene in an otherwise dull movie. It doesn't like save anything, It's kind of like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool,
And like I said, I really don't have much to say about the movie. This continues, as I stated at the beginning, this continues the conversation of the Netflixification of, movies, that it's just something to watch, something to put on the TV to, give Netflix the viewing hours. And there just seems to be no real care. And I'm going to end my blurb off with like, let's just, can we get something good for David Harbour to do? Like, Violent Night was all right, but I mean, this guy just seems to be in like stinker after stinker.
He has a bad agent. I'm sorry, straight up. I mean, the guy probably landed him Stranger Things, which he'll probably be set for life now off of. But I mean, the Hellboy movie, Violent Night's okay. This is not, it's, I don't know. The dude needs to be a little bit more choosy with his parts, because I believe he can be a decent actor at times. Just like, dude, maybe he just doesn't care to stretch himself at all. He just wants to play a certain character and phone it in and make money. And I mean, if that's the case, good on you. I guess you're making probably boatloads of money doing this shit. But dude, I don't know how you have any fans outside of Stranger Things with these roles. I want to ask, do you usually do your taxes at H&R Block? I'm just curious.
I mean, I used to sometimes when I was younger.
Because there's some product placement in this movie with H&R Block. There's a scene where there's like a chase scene where I think they're trying to track down David Harbour's ghost, and he like phases through the wall, and it's like a close-up of just like an H&R Block poster of like showing you to come in and get your taxes filed. And then he starts running through the H&R Block office, and it's just showing all this like H&R Block branded stuff. Like everyone's wearing the t-shirts, all of the desks have the logos arranged in such a way, all the posters are like file your taxes now and all that stuff. And obviously this movie is releasing at the time when like a lot of people are filing their taxes or preparing to, and it was just so strange to me. I was like, man, this is blatant. Like very, very blatant. Like it's so much so that I'm surprised that like David Harbour didn't come out the other way and he's like, are you guys old enough to file your taxes? You know, some stupid like that. It was so bad.
I probably would have liked that better.
There was other examples of product placement as well, but that was like the most blatant. That was really bad.
I was gonna say, I think what's interesting too is like we're like 30 minutes in the recording this. We haven't even talked about there's like a whole plot about him actually being murdered and turning into a ghost that no one gives a shit about.
I was just about to say, we probably should discuss like the quote unquote twist of the movie, or you know, the reveal, where Ernest is the name of his father, right? Or his wife's father, one of the two. And essentially they murder him because his wife dies in childbirth, and they believe that was like a sign that, I don't know, they should raise the daughter themselves, or like the parents shouldn't be involved in raising the daughter. The mom at this point in the movie has gone crazy or has dementia or she's not well. So maybe it was her suggestion that she was always crazy or something. I have no clue. It's a very clunky, very stupid thing. And essentially the father, or is it his father or is it his wife's father?
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea.
Okay, I honestly don't know. But anyways, that man's name is Ernie, or Ernest. So he murders David Harbour, and then David Harbour like gets his bowling shirt and all that stuff for some reason. I'm not sure. I guess he buries it with him when they bury him in the backyard. So Ernest actually isn't the David Harbour character. It's this old man who is introduced in the third act. And I don't even remember Ernie's real name because by the end of it, they still call Ernest. They don't like call him his actual name. They just call him what is on his bowling shirt. That's not even his bowling shirt.
Which seems like that's a shitty way to, finish your time as a ghost, is just being continued to be called the name of your murderer.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. And also the way that like Ernest, well, the way the movie reveals this to us, and also Ernest, because he doesn't remember how he died, which I mean is a common trope for ghost things. I mean, the whole point of ghosts is that you have like something unresolved in your past and you can't leave this world until it's resolved, right? So it's fine for him not to remember why he's there. He's not a vengeful ghost, right? But it's like he sees an American Eagle pin on a CIA officer and gets like this weird ass like That's So Raven flashback where it goes back and like shows that he was bludgeoned to death with like an eagle statue, and then it's like it shows that it was like his father's or his wife's father's eagle statue that he's bludgeoned with and all this shit. It's super clunky. It's awful. And then they already reveal that to us, but then they also have to make sure that the Presley family knows about this, or more so Kevin, the protagonist. So in the third act, we get this big reveal by the real Ernest telling Kevin, just monologuing at length with a gun like pressed to the kid, essentially just, telling him about who he is and what he did and how this house has been vacant for 50 years, but now they're not scared and they uncovered the mystery, and it's garbage. It's awful. Like, I was hoping for something that was even more Scooby-Doo, but this is just, I don't know. The movie like tries to kind of get serious near the end, and they also try and do like a sad montage ending as well to try and like make you cry or something. All of this shit doesn't work. It's bad. Like it's just, it doesn't work when it's trying to be serious and menacing. It doesn't work when it's trying to be sad. It doesn't work when it's being funny. What does this movie work at? Like nothing.
I mean, all I could think of is I was like, this seems like Christopher Landon had like 6 different endings, and then he was like, I can't decide. How about I just put them all in the movie? Because I found there was just multiple times throughout the film, especially in that like second half, third act, where I was like, oh, it seems like the movie's gonna stop here, but it's not, and we're just gonna keep going. And then it was like, yeah, let me just give you all these different kind of endings all together that are going to make no sense and you're not going to care about, because by now you're already checked out of this movie. I've already cashed the paychecks. We're all good.
What's interesting as well is this movie makes a big deal out of the first video they posted. They go to like Tig Notaro's book launch, and the kid comes up to her. He's like, "Oh, have you seen this viral video? Like this ghost video going around? This viral video?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, it's already blown up. Cool." And they go back to the house, and they're talking about how, like, yeah, it almost has 1,000 views over a couple of days. I'm just like, bro, 1,000 views isn't viral nowadays. If that's the case, we got a podcast that is like 7 times viral. The Leprechaun 1 and 2, baby. I mean, gone viral. We have 6 or 7 different videos on our YouTube that are quote unquote viral. That's not viral. So it was just another example of like, you guys don't even understand what this is. Like, yeah, when they get later on, they're like, oh, we have a couple million views in a couple hours. Yeah, that's viral. Like, that's like what a Mr. Beast or someone gets, or loads of creators on TikTok. But dude, 1,000 views in a day, that's not viral. That's most people would call that a bad day if you're like a content creator trying to make a living off of this shit, right? Like, literally, they get one video, 1,000 views, and you're like, yep, we're all in. We quit everything. Like, this is our golden goose. Yeah, I don't know. Do I have anything else to say about this movie? I'm kind of scanning over my notes. That one scream by the mother in this movie, it is some of the worst acting I've ever seen in terms of like a scream queen or like a big scream. The movie does make fun of it, so I think she was directed to be really corny and cheesy and over the top, but it is like, oh god, it's I almost like shudder at the thought of it. It's just such a bad scene. Like, if I was that actress, I'd be like embarrassed of that, but then hopefully she can just blame it on Christopher Landon for getting directed that way. So Rowan, anything else you want to say before we just do it?
No, I just want to do it.
So if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Rowan, I have a hunch that I already know what you're going to give this, but what would you give We Have a Ghost?
Yeah, we're going to go with an A on this one. I mean, we've already cited 2 movies better than this, Casper and Frighteners, that are kind of the same thing, just done better, and are older and still look better. So I would say watch those instead of watch this. And I'm just reiterating what we've already said. I don't really know who this is for. I don't think this is going to keep a teen audience's attention. I don't think it's going to keep an adult's attention. And I think if you're a Christopher Landon fan, you're probably also not going to overly like this, because I think he's got better stuff. And you're just going to kind of see it for what or at least I think it is, which is, simply to cash a check while you're working on your next theater release. So, yeah, it's an A for me. It's not worth the time. There's better horror comedies out there to look at. What about you, Colton? What would you rate it?
Yeah, it's an A from me as well. Obviously, as I've talked about it, I think I've soured on it even more. It was just kind of like I looked through my list and I was like, man, I got like 30 negative points for this movie. That's not very good. Maybe the reason I was so positive on the first half of the movie was just I was engaged with writing notes. Maybe I don't know. It's strange. Like I said, there's very few things that I can even point to that is like good or like competent in this movie. Like the opening shot, that TikTok sequence, and I don't know, there was a couple of little moments I guess that I thought were okay. But yeah, by and large, a lot of baffling decisions in this. I don't think it's funny. It's not scary. It's boring for like 20 minutes, and you got David Harbour as a piss-colored ghost, which I don't know, that's not a good choice. So yeah, if you want to see a good Netflix horror movie with a black family moving into a house that is possessed by ghosts, just watch His House. From 2020. Watch that. It's far more serious, way better. It's not a comedy, but I feel like most of our audience would far more enjoy that if they haven't seen it already. And yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. So if you're not following us already on our socials, you can do so at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to support the show, like our horror hounds Holly and Nicholas, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams and get access to episodes of our main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. We have a $1 tier and a $5 tier. Lots of goodies you can get there, and Yeah, I mean, if you pledge to the Horror Hound here, we'll read you out on the show, just like Holly and Nicholas. And Rowan, go ahead and plug the playlist.
Yeah, so if you're into spooky music, you can go to Spotify and go to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, all of our social media and the Linktree links, you can click on there and go right to it. And yeah, we just put music from horror movies we review or iconic horror movies, just horror movies we love, whether that's licensed music or scores. I can guarantee you nothing is going to be on this because guess what?
No.
I think The Doors' People Are Strange are already on it because it was done better in The Lost Boys, and we already reviewed The Lost Boys. So, yeah, you're not going to probably get anything from this one. But yeah, if you want to get your spooky music on, go and check it out.
And next time on the show, we're going to be covering Cocaine Bear.
Oh, yeah.
I sort of put it out there on our socials as a joke, just asking the people, is this a horror movie? Yes or no? But should we review it anyways? And overwhelmingly, people said we should review it anyways, or yes, that it is a horror movie. So it seems like the people want it. We're going to give it to them. So look for that later this week, probably, because we got to head out and see it. I'm going to see it tomorrow night, and I think Rowan's going to try and make it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out for Cocaine Bear. And with that, I think that about wraps things up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.